I'm happy to talk to you guys about how you can scale GraphQL with distributed SQL. Let me quickly share my screen first. Okay. So today, right, like I just wanted to take you through a short demo of how you can scale like your GraphQL workloads. I can also deploy it on multi-region and how all the resiliency comes into the picture of your database. I mean, obviously Hasura gives you kind of a resiliency already, but what about your database layer itself, right? So we're gonna go through that using Yugabyte DB. For folks who don't know Yugabyte DB is a distributed SQL database. It's an open source project. You can come check us out here. For today's session, all we need to care about is like we are a sharded, like we are a cluster database where we shard our data set into all the available nodes in the cluster. And for a GraphQL or a Hasura perspective, it can connect to any of these nodes and it can talk using a Postgres compliant SQL and query the database itself. So on the top layer, we kind of support Postgres for querying the data. So it's like, I'll show you the setup that I have today. Like probably like some time back, Hasura had published a white paper where they had like did a benchmark of how to scale their GraphQL subscription workloads to 1 million records, or sorry, million subscriptions. So we wanted to take the same thing and I wanted to see how you can scale the GraphQL layer as well as your database layer linearly, right? So traditionally what happens is in databases, you kind of just scale it vertically, like you cannot scale writes, even with Amazon Aurora and things like that. You can obviously scale reads, but writes is difficult. Sometimes when you have a Hasura and also other workloads adding to the database, you might want to like scale your database layer also. For that, we have like a very simple application, like which is kind of simulating an e-commerce workload. We have user accounts, which has a bunch of columns in it, and we have user orders where he is probably making an order through e-commerce, and we can simulate orders for each of those users. So what we are going to do today is I'm going to show you in our setup how we scale a GraphQL subscription like this using Yugabyte DB, where we can scale Hasura layer also linearly, as well as you can scale your database layer also linearly. So this is the setup I have. Like everything is running on Kubernetes. We have a layer of Hasura instances running, which actually works talk to Yugabyte DB for serving the request, right? So first thing I wanted to show you was just how we are deploying Hasura instance on Kubernetes. So this is the only change we will have to do. What I'm doing here is I'm just specifying Kubernetes DNS name for where Yugabyte cluster is running. So if I go back to my, I will go to my console here and I'll show you my setup, what I have. I have a Kubernetes cluster that I am spun up on Google. It's a GKE cluster. I have deployed Yugabyte DB cluster, which is like a 3-node Yugabyte DB cluster I have. So I have those clusters running, and I also have like 3 Hasura instances that I have started, which is connecting to that Yugabyte DB cluster. If I go to my console, you can see I have those 2 tables that I had showed you previously, the user account and user orders. I've already tracked it so that it has some data in it. And we can go ahead and query the data. Like it will give you the results and things like that. So for this demo, I'm gonna just make it as a subscription so that whenever I start loading the data, you can see a new subscription coming up. Okay, cool. As part of that demo, I mean the setup itself, like we have one more thing. We have like a subscription app, which is based on that same subscription benchmark tool that Hasura guys had put out, like Hasura folks had put out. So we are using the same thing. I just made few changes so that it can run natively on Kubernetes as a Docker container. So we are just reusing the same thing. I'm going to just show you the setup I have for benchmarking tool itself. So if you see here, this is my benchmark configuration. I'm saying I'm starting like 25,000 subscriptions, and I'll start this subscriber so that it can start making subscription against Hasura, and Hasura can keep a lookout for the data whenever the new data comes up, right? Now, what I'll do is I'll go ahead and start a sample data loading app, which is going to go and load the data into orders. So as and when the new orders come in, so we'll see that data come in the subscription. Obviously, like in this workload, you see, right, like the situations when there is like massive scaling you need during holiday seasons like this, during the Black Friday season, you can not only scale your Hasura linearly on Kubernetes, you can have your database layer also. You can go ahead and do that. So let me tail the logs for this so that we can see the data going in. Okay, perfect. The data started writing. I can go and check the data getting written in my console also. This console is like it's a Yugabyte DB console, which it's like an admin console where you can go and check the metrics of your cluster, what's happening on the cluster and things like that. If you see, based on my subscription, what I had already scheduled there, there's like few selects happening to retrieve the subscribers. So, and now since I'm doing starting a new transaction, like all those subscribers will continue to like get the subscription. And one thing that I could do is like I could go and do a edit the cluster and increase the number of servers. So I don't have to change anything on the Hasura side, because if you notice, I was giving Hasura DNS, like I was giving a DNS name for Yugabyte servers, so that Hasura doesn't need to rebound, or it will automatically like load balance the load across all the available nodes. So this kind of shows you how easily you can scale not only your Hasura workload, but also you can scale your database layer itself on Kubernetes. Like this kind of fits into that cloud native model of yours. Basically, pretty much based on your workload, you can scale linearly. Cool. That's all I had for this. Like if you are interested in it, like you can go to our GitHub repo, and we are going to write a blog post on this basically based on the GraphQL, like how Hasura had scaled 1 million. We are going to just write a similar blog where how Yugabyte could scale it linearly using Hasura.